The challenge in the arena. The desert winds howled across the black stone arena, where thousands of alien eyes watched from high seats carved into red rock. The sky was purple, with 3 suns burning above. In the center of the arena stood a human, his clothes torn, his face bruised, and his hands chained. His name was Jace. He didn't know how he got here. One moment he was scavenging in the outer colonies, and the next, captured by tall, horned aliens who called themselves the Carveth. Now he stood under a sun too hot, surrounded by creatures who cheered for blood. A loud drumbeat echoed through the arena. Then silence. From the tall golden gates, a figure emerged. She was tall, powerful, and beautiful in a terrifying way. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian, and her silver armor hugged her like a second skin. Her black eyes locked onto Jace with no pity. She held a long spear that glowed with a red crystal at its tip. Her name was Valkyra, the princess of the Carveth. The crowd chanted her name like thunder. "Why am I here?" Jace whispered to himself, his voice cracked with thirst. He looked at his captors, but they only grinned. A voice echoed through the arena, deep and booming. "The human is a trespasser. He will face death in the way of our ancestors. Let the princess judge his fate." Jace's chains clicked open. His arms dropped. Heavy, weak, but free. He didn't have time to think. Valkyra raised her spear. The crowd went silent. Then she threw it. The spear whistled through the air like a lightning strike, aimed straight for his heart. Jace didn't think. His instincts took over. He reached out and caught the spear. The arena froze. Not a sound. Valkyra's eyes widened, not in fear, but in horror. Then came the whispers, soft at first, then growing louder. He caught it. He caught the death spear. By the old law. Jace looked around, confused. The spear still buzzed in his hand. It burned his palm, but he held it tightly. An old alien with white horns and a robe stepped forward from the judge's seat. "The law is clear," he said. "He who catches the death spear shall claim the warrior as his mate." Jace blinked. "Wait, what?" Valkyra's face turned to stone. She didn't move, but her hands clenched. The crowd began to shout. Some cheered. Some were angry. Many were confused, but no one denied the law. Jace looked at the spear, then at the warrior princess. "I didn't mean to. I just didn't want to die." The elder raised his hand. "Intent does not matter. The law is older than our empire. It is sacred." She threw the spear. He caught it. "They are bound." Guards stepped forward, surrounding Jace and Valkyra. She didn't resist, but she looked at Jace with fire in her eyes. "You," she said in a cold voice, "have ruined everything." "Trust me," Jace said, "this wasn't my plan either." They were led out of the arena, side by side. The crowd watched in silence, not knowing if this was the start of a love story or a war. But one thing was certain. Jace, a simple human scavenger, had just changed the fate of a warrior princess, and perhaps the galaxy. The law of the spear. The ride back to the capital was silent. Jace sat beside Valkyra inside a floating chariot pulled by 2 6-legged beasts. Their horns shimmered gold under the twin moons, but he could barely look outside. His focus stayed on her. She hadn't spoken a single word since the arena. Not one glance, not one sound. He wanted to ask what would happen next, but the anger in her eyes told him not to. The chariot passed through massive gates shaped like fangs. Beyond them stood the city of Drakera, an alien fortress of black stone towers, glowing rooms, and floating lanterns. The streets were filled with Carveth citizens, all whispering as they watched the chariot pass. "That's him. The human. She is bound to him now." Jace swallowed hard. What does it mean? To be bound by that law? She didn't reply. The chariot stopped at the Grand Palace. sharp, curved spires rising into the sky like claws. Guards opened the doors, and Valkyra stepped out without waiting for him. Jace followed, unsure if he was walking toward safety or execution. Inside, they entered a room lit by soft red light and walls covered in old symbols. An elder sat there, the same one from the arena. He looked at Valkyra first. "You know the law, child." She answered through clenched teeth. "I do. I accept." "Do you speak against the bond?" "No," she said, looking away. "But I will not honor it with affection." Then the elder turned to Jace. "You are not of our kind. But the law is clear. You caught the spear. You now share her fate. Where she lives, you live. Where she sleeps, you sleep. And if she falls in battle, I fall with her," Jace said softly. The elder nodded. He continued, "You will be watched. Not all in this court accept this outcome. Some think it is weakness. Some will test you." "Test me how?" Before the elder could answer, a guard burst into the room. "Princess," the guard said, "an attempt was made on the human's life. His food was poisoned. The kitchen boy is dead." Valkyra's eyes sharpened like blades. "Who did this?" "We do not know yet." The elder sighed. "It begins. The enemies of the old ways are already moving. You must protect him now, Valkyra. His survival is your honor." "I didn't ask for this," she growled. "Neither did he," the elder replied. Jace stood silently, heart racing. The palace guards doubled. He was taken to Valkyra's personal quarters, not to a cell. Her chamber was large, with walls of crystal and weapons hung like trophies. She sat by the window, sharpening a blade. "You're not safe," she said finally. "Many want you dead." "Why?" "Because you made me yours. And they hate that law. They say it's ancient, useless, a disgrace to our warrior blood." Jace sat slowly. "But I didn't try to claim you. I just didn't want to die." She looked at him. For the first time, really looked. "Intent doesn't matter here," she said. "Only action. And by law, I am now yours. And you are mine." He gave a dry laugh. "So, we're married." "No," she said sharply. "Not like your kind marries. It is more like tethering. We are tied. If one of us dies, the other feels it. If one betrays the bond, we both lose face." He grew quiet. "And if I run, you won't survive the night." They sat in silence again. Then Valkyra stood. "Sleep. We leave at dawn." "Go where?" "To the Temple of Blades. We must perform the binding ritual. If we don't, the bond remains unstable and painful." "Painful." "Yes, for both of us." As she left the room, Jace touched the band around his wrist, a strange metal bracelet that had been placed on him after the arena. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He suddenly felt cold. Outside the room, a hooded figure washed from the shadows, a dagger in one hand, and a plan in mind. The human had lived too long already. The bond of survival. The morning came not with sunlight, but with sirens. Jace awoke in a cold sweat. His chest burned. His wristband flashed red. He rolled off the soft alien bedding just as a spear struck the wall behind him, cracking the crystal stone. He didn't scream. He didn't even think. His body moved. He crawled under the nearby table, heart pounding in his throat. Outside, footsteps ran through the hallway, fast and many. Guards shouted in Karveth tongue. A fight broke out somewhere near the gate. He peeked from under the table. The assassin was still in the room, tall, hooded, and holding a double-bladed knife made of light. The assassin growled, "The bond will break when you bleed, human." Before the blade could strike, the door exploded. Valkyra stormed in. Her eyes were on fire. With one movement, she threw her glaive. It sliced the assassin's mask off. Beneath it, a young Karveth warrior snarled, his eyes full of hate. "You dare," Valkyra hissed. The assassin attacked. They clashed in front of Jace, metal on metal, sparks flying. She fought not like a princess, but like a storm. Swift, brutal, unforgiving. Her blade found the assassin's neck, and blood sprayed across the wall. He fell at her feet. Velkara turned to Jace. "Are you hurt?" Jace shook his head, still breathing hard. "You weren't supposed to die yet," she said coldly. "Not before the bond ritual." "Well," he gasped, "thanks for the warm greeting." She didn't smile, but she offered him her hand. They left the room. Outside, guards cleaned up the mess. Bodies, broken glass, blood trails. The elder approached. That was not random. He was trained. He was waiting. Someone inside this palace wants him dead. Velkara gritted her teeth. "We leave now." They flew in a small battlecraft toward the Temple of Blades, a holy place atop a mountain shaped like a claw. As the ship rose into the clouds, Jace leaned against the window, his wrist still glowing faintly. "What exactly is the ritual?" he asked. "A test," Velkara replied, "of trust, of strength, and of loyalty." "Sounds easy," he joked. "Do we hold hands and make vows?" She looked at him. "You bleed into a flame. I drink it. Then I offer my blood in return. It binds us deeper. Body and soul." Jace blinked. "You're serious?" "Yes. And if either of us lies during the ceremony, we die." "Great." She turned to face him fully. "You were supposed to be a weakling. A joke. But you caught the spear. And then you survived a trained assassin." He shrugged. "I'm lucky. Or you're something else." The Temple of Blades was quiet, too quiet. Its doors were made of bone. The halls were lined with swords from fallen warriors. Glowing fires lit the way as they entered the main chamber. A priestess waited there, tall and draped in white cloth. Her eyes glowed silver. "You come to seal what cannot be undone," she spoke. "The bond of the death spear." Velkara stepped forward. "We are ready." The priestess nodded. "Then place your hands into the flame." Jace hesitated. The fire wasn't just hot, it felt alive. It hummed, whispered. He placed his palm in it. Pain shot through him, but he didn't pull back. Blood ran down his fingers and dripped into a silver bowl. Velkara followed. Her blood was dark blue. It mixed with his. The priestess stirred the liquid, then handed it to Velkara. "Drink." She did. Then Jace. The taste was bitter, sharp, like swallowing lightning. His vision blurred. He fell to one knee. Then he saw her memories. For a second, he wasn't himself. He was her, standing in armor, fighting in war, crying alone under the moon after her mother died, screaming at her father for treating her like a tool, longing for someone to truly see her. He gasped and pulled back. She saw his life too, his broken home, the loneliness, the days spent scavenging space junk just to eat, the friends he lost, the ache in his chest he never talked about. When they looked at each other, there was no more anger, only silence, only understanding. "The bond is sealed," the priestess said. But before they could rest, the temple walls shook. An explosion ripped through the entrance. Guards fell. Smoke filled the air. Through the dust, a dozen armed warriors marched in. They wore war paint. They weren't here for blessings. They were here for blood. Velkara grabbed her sword. Jace picked up a fallen blade. "No more running," he said. "Then stand with me," she replied. They stood back to back, surrounded. The ritual had awakened something ancient between them, an energy neither of them fully understood. But for now, it didn't matter. Together, they would survive. The fire ritual. The temple burned behind them. Ashes floated through the air like dead snow. Alien war cries echoed through the crumbling halls as Jace and Valkyra fought shoulder to shoulder. They were outnumbered. They were outmatched. But they weren't afraid. Valkyra's blades sang like thunder. Each movement she made was sharp, deadly, precise. Jace, though no trained warrior, moved with desperation, swinging a curved alien sword taken from a fallen attacker. He wasn't graceful, but he was fast. And somehow, he wasn't dying. "You said this place was sacred," Jace shouted, ducking under a blade. "It is," Valkyra growled, "which is why they're here. To defile it. To erase the law." They reached the temple's edge, a high stone balcony with no exits. Behind them, the smoke grew thicker. Ahead, nothing but open air and a 1,000-foot drop down a rocky mountain. "Trapped. We're surrounded," Jace said, panting. "No," she said. "We jump." "Excuse me." She grabbed his hand. "Trust me." He didn't have time to argue. They leaped. Wind screamed in his ears as they fell. Jace was sure they were going to die. But then something yanked them upward. A hidden drop glider unfurled from Valkyra's armor, slowing their fall. It sparked under the heat but held steady as it carried them down to the jungle valley below. They crashed into the trees, rolling hard onto the dirt. They were alive, but barely. Jace coughed, face scraped, ribs aching. Valkyra stood up first, limping slightly. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I've had worse." They didn't speak again for a long time. They hid deep inside the ruins of an ancient outpost, a broken metal bunker swallowed by roots and vines. Jace sat beside a dying fire, watching the blood dry on his arm. "So that's it?" he asked. "We drink each other's blood, fight assassins, and fall off a mountain. That's the full marriage ceremony." Valkyra didn't laugh, but she looked at him for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "The ritual was only half of it." "What's the other half?" "The fire trial. I thought that was a metaphor." "It's not." She walked over to a metal case in the bunker's corner and opened it. Inside were old tribal symbols carved into a smooth silver disc. She placed it into the fire. The flames turned blue. "This test," she continued, "is from before memory. It judges who is worthy of the bond. It doesn't care about law or love. It only knows strength. And what if it finds us unworthy?" She looked up at him. "Then the bond breaks, and one of us dies." Jace went quiet. "So we just stand in the fire." "Not just stand. You must hold the truth in your heart. No fear, no lies, no doubt." He stared at the blue flame. He could feel it pulsing, as if it could read him. "Fine," he said. "Let's do it." They stepped into the fire together. It didn't burn their skin, but it burned everything else. Their memories, their lies, their masks. Visions flashed before Jace's eyes. His mother, walking out the door and never coming back. His brother, dying in the war because Jace wasn't fast enough to save him. His own voice, screaming in the dark, "I'm not enough." The fire whispered, "Do you fear her?" He thought of Valkyra's strength, her rage, her honor. "Yes," he answered, "but I respect her more." "Do you love her?" Jace blinked. He didn't answer. Not yet. The fire turned toward her now. Valkyra saw her mother dying in her arms, her father calling her weak for crying, herself, a child in armor, screaming into silence. "Do you hate him?" the fire asked. "I did," she whispered, "because he was everything I wasn't allowed to be." And now, she looked at Jace, the way he stood, even when afraid, the way he never called her less, the way he never tried to own her, even when the law said he could. "Now I don't." The fire shrank. The blue light dimmed. They stood alone in silence. Then the disc in the fire cracked open. Inside it was a mark, an ancient sigil shaped like two crossed blades. It floated upward, burning into both their wristbands, sealing the bond with permanent energy. "The fire accepts you," Valkyra said. But before they could rest, a new sound echoed from the jungle outside. "Ships. Fast. Many." "They found us again," Jace whispered. Valkyra pulled her blade. "They'll never stop." He picked up his. "Then neither will we." They stepped out of the bunker together, warrior and human, bound not just by law, but by fire. Betrayal under the moon. The jungle was dark, alive with alien sounds. Strange birds cried in the trees. The wind hissed like a warning. Jace and Valkyra moved quietly through the shadows, their weapons drawn, their backs close. Above them, the sky was clear, 2 moons floating like pale eyes. They had escaped the assassins, passed the fire ritual, and sealed the ancient bond, but peace was still far away. Jace felt it deep in his chest. Something was wrong. They reached the edge of a silent ridge. Below them lay a forgotten village, empty, ruined, overgrown with moss. Stone statues stood with cracked faces, their eyes hollow. "What is this place?" Jace whispered. Valkyra knelt, touching the dirt. "A place where old warriors came to die. Long before my time." "Why are we here?" She looked up at him. "Because I need answers, and someone here owes me truth." They entered the largest hut, dark, cold, filled with dust. Inside sat an old alien wrapped in bone robes. His eyes were blind, but he turned toward them the moment they stepped inside. "So," he said, "the fire chose you. You knew it would come to this," Valkyra said, stepping closer. "You told my father to let me fight. You told him to allow the spear. And he obeyed. Then why did he send killers after us?" The old alien chuckled. "Because the law frightens him. It gives power to those who are not born into it. You, Valkyra, are dangerous because you believe in it. And this human, he proved it still holds power." Jace frowned. "Your people tried to kill me for following your own law." "Not all of them. Only those who fear change." The old alien leaned forward. "Listen closely. There is a meeting tonight. At the Moon Temple. Your father and the warlords gather there. They plan to end the bond forever. And if needed, end you both." Valkyra's hand curled into a fist. "How do we get in?" The old alien smiled. "You don't." But Jace stepped forward. "We do. We just need a way." Hours later, beneath the twin moons, they arrived at the Moon Temple. It was carved into the mountainside, guarded by stone soldiers and glowing glyphs. Jace wore stolen armor from a fallen guard, his face hidden beneath a sharp mask. Valkyra moved beside him in the shadows, silent as breath. They climbed the back cliffs, scaling the cold rock with bare hands. Inside, the warlords sat around a circle of fire, speaking in the old tongue. Valkyra's father, Lord Kravos, stood at the center, tall, crowned in silver, a scar across his cheek. "The human must die," Kravos said, "or our traditions mean nothing." "And the girl?" one warlord asked. "If she defends him, she dies too." Valkyra's eyes burned with rage. But Jace put a hand on her arm. "Not yet." They listened as plans were made. Soldiers would be sent at sunrise. Fake charges would be created. The bond would be declared false. "They will erase us," Valkyra whispered. "Then we give them something they can't ignore," Jace said. That night, they returned to the ruined village. The old alien waited. "They have decided," Jace said. "Yes." The old one nodded. "And now you must decide. What do we do?" The elder lifted a small case and handed it to Valkyra. Inside was an ancient mark, one used only once in 1,000 years. "Challenge him," the elder said, "by the law of blood, not as daughter, but as warrior." Valkyra looked at Jace. "If I lose, he kills me." Jace shook his head. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way." She stood tall. "If I run, I am nothing. If I bow, I am no one. But if I fight, win or lose, my voice will be heard. The next morning, the city square was filled. Warriors lined the steps. The warlords stood in their golden seats, and Lord Kravos, proud and strong, raised his hand. Bring the traitors. But Valkyra stepped forward. Alone. No armor, no guards, only fire in her eyes. I challenge you, she shouted, her voice ringing like thunder, by the law of blood. The crowd gasped. Jace appeared beside her. And I stand with her. Kravos laughed. You think to fight me? No, Valkyra said. I fight you for truth, for honor, for the bond that you fear. The warlords whispered. The elders watched. The drums began. The duel would begin at sunset. Father against daughter. Death against truth. And in the shadows, another figure smiled. Because someone close to Valkyra was planning to betray her before the fight even started. The warlord's judgment. The sun bled red as it touched the horizon, casting long shadows across the sacred arena. Jace stood just outside the dueling circle, surrounded by guards who had been ordered not to interfere. He could only watch. He wasn't allowed to speak, not during a blood challenge. This was a Karveth matter, ancient, brutal, and final. Valkyra stepped into the center alone. Her armor was stripped down to the essentials. Light, mobile, forged for speed. Her blades were short and curved, designed not to kill quickly, but to test her enemy. Her father entered next. Lord Kravos. His armor was heavier, plated with bone and steel. He didn't carry a blade. Instead, he held a war axe the size of a man's chest, a weapon passed down from generations of blood kings. Gasps filled the crowd. Even the warlords stood to witness this. Father versus daughter. Strength versus will. The duel was not just for survival, it was for truth. If Valkyra won, the bond with Jace would be honored. The law would stand. If she fell, the bond would break. And Jace would be executed at dawn. The drums began. Slow, steady. Kravos didn't wait. He charged like a storm, axe raised, dust swirling behind him. Valkyra dodged low, slashing at his side, but the armor held. The crowd roared. Kravos spun, his axe missing her by inches. Sparks flew as the blade struck stone. You're not strong enough, he growled. Strength isn't what you fear, Valkyra answered. She danced around him, cutting small lines into his armor. She was bleeding him, not with blades, but with time. Every second she survived, the crowd leaned forward. Every breath she took was proof she belonged here. But Kravos grew angrier. He struck with fury, faster now, wild. One blow caught her shoulder. She stumbled. The crowd gasped. Jace stepped forward, then stopped. He couldn't interfere. To enter the circle meant death. Valkyra dropped to one knee, panting, blood trailing down her arm. Kravos raised the axe. You dishonor yourself, he said, for a human. No, she whispered. I honor who I am. And she moved, faster than he expected. She rolled beneath the axe and stabbed upward, straight into the weak joint of his armor, under the ribs. He groaned, stumbled, then grabbed her by the throat. She didn't scream. She headbutted him. Twice. His grip loosened. She fell back, grabbed her second blade, and drove it into his leg. Kravos roared. He tried to swing again, but this time he was too slow. Valkyra ducked. With both blades in hand, she slashed across his chest in an X, cutting through armor, pride, and silence. Kravos fell to one knee, bleeding, gasping. She stood over him. The crowd watched, quiet, unsure. Finish it, Kravos spat. End it. Valkyra looked at him, and then she dropped her blades. I don't want your death, she said. I want your respect. Kravos stared up at her. For the first time in decades, his face showed something close to sorrow. He dropped his axe. then bowed. "You are stronger than me," he said, "because you chose not to become me." The crowd erupted. Cheers, shouts, chanting her name. Jace's heart nearly burst from his chest. He smiled. The law had spoken. The duel was over, and she had won. But just as the crowd celebrated, a sharp sound cracked through the air. A plasma bolt. It missed Valkyra by inches, striking Kravos in the back. Jace turned, spotting the sniper on the ledge above. A warlord. One of the council members. He had refused to accept the outcome. "No," Jace shouted, running. The guards reacted too slowly. Another shot came, this one aimed at Valkyra. Jace dove. He tackled her just in time, taking the shot in his side. He hit the ground hard. Valkyra caught him, screaming his name. Guards seized the warlord, dragging him down as the crowd panicked. Jace's breath came in short gasps. "You see," he said weakly. "I told you, I wasn't just lucky." "Stay with me," she said, holding him. "Stay." Blood soaked through her hands. His eyes fluttered. Did I do okay?" "You changed my world," she whispered. His vision blurred. He saw her face, the fire, the tears, the fury, the heart. And then, darkness. They rushed him to the palace healers. Valkyra never left his side. Day turned to night. Night turned to silence. And in the quiet chamber, under the glow of sacred lights, his fingers twitched. His eyes opened. "Hey," he whispered. "Was it a good wedding?" Valkyra smiled through her tears. "No," she said. "It was perfect." His name in their stars. The sky over Drakera was quiet for the first time in days. No war drums, no blood chants, no screams, just wind. Jace lay in the temple infirmary, his chest wrapped in silver-threaded gauze, his breath slow but steady. Outside the chamber, guards stood at attention, not as watchers, but protectors. Inside, Valkyra sat beside him, still dressed in torn ceremonial cloth. Her hand never left his. It had been 3 days since the duel. 3 days since he took a plasma bolt meant for her. And still, no one dared to call him weak. Word of what happened spread fast. How a human caught the death spear. How he walked through fire. How he stood by a Karveth princess in blood and battle. How he fell protecting her. The people no longer whispered. They bowed when Valkyra passed. And when they spoke Jace's name, they did so with honor. The warlords, what remained of them, met in silence. The traitor who fired the shot had been executed publicly, and Lord Kravos, wounded in both body and pride, had summoned the Great Council. This time, he did not speak with command. This time, he listened. Valkyra entered the great chamber alone, her footsteps echoing off the high walls. "You summoned me," she said to her father. Kravos stood slowly. His eyes looked tired. "I did." He took a breath, something he rarely did before speaking. "Your bond is real. Your challenge was won. I have no more rights to deny it." She nodded. "And the human?" "He is Karveth. By fire, by spear, by law." Murmurs ran through the chamber. "The stars will record his name," an elder asked. Kravos hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." That night, under the twin moons, a ceremony was held. The entire capital gathered in the observatory, where the sky could be seen with crystal clarity. Valkyra stood before the crowd, but this time not as a warrior, not as a daughter, but as a speaker of the people. And beside her, limping but alive, Jace. His arm was in a sling, his face still pale, but when the crowd saw him, they erupted. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with pride. Valkyra raised her hand. Silence fell. "In our history," she said, "no human has stood where he stands. But today, you all saw what I saw, what I tried not to see for too long. He is not of our blood, but he has shed it beside us. He is not of our stars, but he has earned a place among them." She looked at him, and for once, her voice cracked. "He is not mine because of a law. He is mine because he chose me, even when it cost him everything." The elder astronomer stepped forward. He lifted a long metallic rod toward the sky. "Jace of Earth," he called out, "name your star." Jace blinked. "What?" "You are to be marked in the sky," the astronomer said. "Your deeds require it. Name your star." Jace looked up. The stars shimmered above him like spilled diamonds. He thought for a long moment, then smiled. "Call it home." A light appeared in the sky, a new one, faint at first, then brightening, glowing with soft golden energy. The crowd stared in silence. A human name, written among the stars of a warrior race. Later, as the people celebrated, Jace and Valkyra stood on the palace balcony. She leaned on the railing. He stood beside her. "So," he said, "do we get to be normal now?" She smirked. "You think normal is still an option?" "No," he laughed. "But I'd settle for quiet." She turned to him. "You'll never be quiet again. Not here. You're a symbol now." "Great," he said. "I didn't even get a crown." "You got a star," she said. "Mine doesn't even sparkle." They stood in silence, watching the skies. "So what now?" he asked. Valkyra looked at him. "We build something new. Not just for us, but for everyone who believed the old laws had to be feared. We show them that honor can change, that strength can come from anywhere. Even from a weak little human." Jace teased. She narrowed her eyes. "Say that again, and I'll throw another spear. Maybe this time I'll catch your heart instead." She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled him closer and kissed him. Soft, slow recital. Beneath a sky that now carried his name. Beneath stars that once rejected him. Beneath a people that now called him their own. The human who caught the death spear. The man who made a warrior princess fall in love. And the legend who now lived, forever, among the stars. The end.